This is a podcast brought to you by the Iclif Executive Education Center at the Asia School of Business, a series of conversations on governance, sustainability, leadership, finance, central banking, and more. With us today, we have Professor Cherian, who is back to share with us again about the 7 pillars of a good retirement system. Professor Cherian, can I call you Joe?
Of course, Crystal.
Thank you. Can you first start off by sharing with us a little bit about your work and your interest in global pension and retirement issues and how this all started?
Well, my interest in retirement finance was forged by 2 academics, Professors V. Bodhi of Boston University and Professor Robert Merton of MIT, who I believe is also affiliated with ASB. They are both also partly responsible for shaping the pensions industry in the US. Secondly, my asset management team in New York, Zurich, and London used to manage money, around US $67 billion worth, for clients around the world, including in Asia. Many of these clients were pension plans, so I realized how important and sacrosanct this function was in terms of managing the global citizenry's retirement assets. They rely on money managers like myself and my team to deliver good, risk-adjusted and cost-efficient solutions to their hard-earned retirement savings. I guess these 2 events caused me to tilt towards retirement finance and solving problems for retirees.
That's really interesting. So can you tell us more? What should retirement mean for the average person?
Sure. It's first about setting your goals for retirement and then coming up with a program that helps you achieve those goals, including the financials needed to support those goals. That said, retirement should involve continuing your economically and socially productive activities and lifestyle pursuits, be it for work or for leisure. Since the proportion of time one allocates to each will change with the passage of time, and especially in retirement, you have to be sure of 3 financial issues during retirement so that you can pursue these goals. They are, 1, to receive a reasonable payout every month. The payout should last for as long as one lives. And finally, it should preferably be indexed to the cost of living.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Joe. I came across an interesting article you authored in Singapore Straits Times in 2014, and I understand it caught the Singapore government's attention, and they subsequently invited you to join an expert panel of advisors to advise the government on how to improve their CPF system. Can you share with us a little bit more about what are these 7 pillars of a good retirement system from that article for our listeners?
That was a long time ago, but I guess the article remains time invariant in applicability. It's a bit long, there are 7 pillars, so let me try to go through them quickly. First, keep it simple. Go back to the basics as to why your retirement pot exists. Recall the 3 fundamental issues I brought up before, which is to be able to finance your retirement goals in the period of retirement. Second, resist the temptation to dig into your retirement pot early and worse still, withdrawing too much of it, be it for housing, education, floods, pandemics, etc. Third, ensure the sponsor offers an option that translates your accumulated sum at the point of retirement to a lifelong income stream in retirement, just like an annuity. The more guaranteed the payout can be by a sovereign entity, the better it is, because you want to make sure that the payout lasts you for as long as you live. Additionally, the payout should preferably be inflation indexed throughout the life of the annuity and not just cause panic when there is inflation. For this to happen, the Malaysian government must also issue inflation index bonds.
Can you explain a little bit more about that, about the government's role in inflation indexed bonds?
Sure. Inflation is a systemic risk that individuals and firms cannot control. However, the government can, by introducing price controls, using monetary policy tools or exchange rate mechanisms, introducing a GST or VAT, however unpopular it may be, because a GST is proportional to the national sales revenue, and as a consequence, higher prices mean higher GST collected. So in a way, the government is most equipped to issue the security to hedge inflation risk. As a consequence, it can issue bonds or sovereign bonds, which coupons adjust to changes in the cost of living, or better known as inflation. For example, if inflation goes up by 3%, the government inflation index bonds coupon will go up by 3% as well. I think you get the drift, how these bonds will move with inflation to help you hedge inflation.
Thank you so much for clarifying, Joe. So now you've shared with us the first three pillars. Can you share with us the rest of the pillars as well?
Sure. The fourth pillar requires that retirement products offered, be they mutual funds, insurance-linked products, unit trusts, they should all be extremely cost efficient. Let's not forget the goal here. This is for retirement during the dis-saving period of our lives. The fees offered on many of these products are just way too high in Malaysia as well as in Asia, and I may come back to this later. There should also be default, well-diversified and low-cost asset allocation funds for those who do not have the time nor the ability to manage their retirement money. Fifth, if the temptation to withdraw money is high at the point of retirement, limit the lump sum withdrawals. Again, this could be unpopular, but it's for your own good. Sixth, if you own a home, consider monetizing your house via a reverse mortgage or scheme to supplement your retirement income. Many countries offer government-subsidized reverse mortgages. I understand the National Mortgage Corporation of Malaysia, also known as Chagamas, has launched a reverse mortgage scheme for retirees in Malaysia to help them supplement their income in retirement.
That's really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more for our listeners who don't really understand, how does a reverse mortgage work?
Okay, the way it works is exactly the reverse of a mortgage, as it says so. So traditionally, you take a mortgage loan to buy a house. It's a loan from a bank to help you pay for the house that you acquire. Now, let's assume you built up 100% equity over time, such that you now have ownership of the home and you've paid off your mortgage. You can actually now reverse the process where you're actually giving a loan to the bank. The way it works is basically you sell equity, the 100% equity in your home, forward to the Chagamas, in this case the reverse mortgage company, and they will provide you with mortgage interest payments. So they're reversing the process. They are giving you a mortgage interest for the sale of your house to them, but you can still live in the house, and usually it's implemented during the point of retirement. So it's actually income, the mortgage interest you get from the entity will be basically used to supplement your retirement income, whether it's from the EPF or other means. So this is a very useful strategy for those who are asset rich and cash poor. And I think a lot of Asians, and it's not just Malaysia, we are asset rich and cash poor because a lot of us own our homes or apartments. So you can consider doing a reverse mortgage to supplement your retirement income. And then you can live in the home for the rest of your life. That's the way these programs work. So you're not kicked out of your home early, whatever. You have the security of being able to live in your home and collecting this income. And then if there's any residual equity left in your house, that goes over to your estate or your beneficiary. So there are no losses here.
That's really, really helpful information to know. Thank you so much for sharing, Joe. And last but not least, what's the last thing on your 7 pillars list?
Okay, everyone talks about financial education. It's very critical and important to have education, but it's not a panacea to our retirement or investing problem. It's very difficult for a non-finance trained person to understand the intricacies of financial products and schemes and so on. So, but that said, you still need to be able to educate the citizenry about finance, especially with respect to retirement. You can use social media, simple jingles, traditional media, community activities, and so on to educate the population. Not with too much information, but with the necessary information to educate them. And also, don't forget, your financial advisor has a responsibility towards you as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. I think many of us spend more time planning our vacations more than we spend thinking about how do we save, how do we invest, how do we plan for retirement. So just a little bit curious to hear your thoughts. Bringing it back home to Malaysia, how do you think our country has done on the retirement finance front?
Crystal, you raised a very good point. We do spend more time planning our vacation at Gentings or Tioman Islands than we do on our savings and investment policies. Okay, coming back to the retirement finance front, Malaysia has an excellent national security, social security saving system. It's mandatory, and everyone knows it as the EPF. And it checks most of the 7 pillars. So that's a good news. However, it doesn't have a life annuity income program, and neither is it inflation indexed. So we need to create that component, and I hope the EPF and the government will at some point introduce that as well. And it hasn't done particularly well. This was a more recent phenomenon. It has done a very good job over the years, but more recently, due to the pandemic, it didn't ring-fence our retirement assets as well. As many know, there was a policy where they allowed us to withdraw money for our pandemic needs, exigencies, and so on. And in my opinion, that's not such a great idea. And I'm not unique in that view. There are many other academics and practitioners who share my view. And that said, 100 billion ringgit dollars actually, or even more than that, actually came out of people's EPF savings as a result of that program. My view is retirement assets should be preserved for retirement purposes, not exigencies or emergencies like floods and pandemics.
Yeah, that's a really important topic that I think a lot of Malaysians are concerned about. But really, was there any, what would be the alternatives? I think it was a really difficult time. We saw many people struggling during the pandemic. What would you suggest as your alternatives?
Okay, my view is that during times of severe exigencies and national emergencies, it can be a tsunami, a pandemic, a national flood situation, whatever the case may be, it's out of our control. The onus should not be on us to help ourselves. We want to help ourselves, but generally speaking, it's the role of the state to provide for those in need during those exigencies. So through a means-tested basis or whatever, the retirement account, in my view, should not be the account of last resort. The state should be providing for this. That said, the US, Australia, and India followed Malaysia's example. They also allowed people to withdraw money from their retirement accounts. So Malaysia is not unique in that approach, and I was fairly critical towards Australia, US, and India as well in some of my articles about this withdrawal scheme. They should not have done that, in my view.
That's really interesting. I think it'll be interesting to see how this plays out for this current generation who have withdrawn a huge chunk of their savings during the pandemic. So are there any other kind of improvements that you would suggest to help people be better prepared?
Sure. There's also the PRS, the Private Supplemental Retirement Scheme in Malaysia. It's a great scheme, but it can be further improved. Many countries have these supplemental retirement schemes to top up your retirement savings over and above the EPF, for example. I think the allowable set aside for the PRS is too low. And more importantly, the personal tax relief of RM 3,000 ringgit per year is just way too low. In my view, the authorities should increase the tax relief to at least 15,000 ringgit annually, and employers should be provided with incentives to match their employees' contributions. Secondly, the good news is the PRS has default investment options, and that's good. Hopefully, these default asset allocation funds, being a private sector administered thing, are cost efficient as well. That said, I had a quick look at the website, and I observed that not only the fund management fees can go up as high as 1.8% in the PRS, there are also sales loads of up to 3%. Sales loads are like brokerage commissions. 3% for putting $100 aside in your PRS. And that's totally ridiculous and crazy in terms of total expense ratios. Someone should look into this as to why we have such high fees and sales loads in the PRS system. In some countries, including the US, you cannot charge a sales load on retirement accounts. In private accounts, that's fine, but not for retirement accounts. So we need to look into this.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing some of the areas that you think, we could improve in and things that people should think about and consider. Do you have any last parting thoughts for our listeners as we wrap up this conversation?
Sure. Let your EPF savings work for you for the long haul. As I said before, resist the temptation of digging into your retirement pot prior to retirement. Secondly, if you're healthy and can work, do consider working longer. That means beyond the retirement age. Many countries allow that. Australia, US, people are all working beyond their retirement age. And thirdly, if you need additional income in retirement and you qualify, do consider utilizing Chagamas's housing monetization program called the Reverse Mortgage Scheme. Last but not least, get educated about your retirement savings through various public channels and forums. Don't be shy to ask your financial advisor about the various investment options, the risks, the fees, etc. They have a fiduciary responsibility to answer you in a truthful manner. Local universities can also help train our financial advisors, investment managers, risk managers, etc. to up their game. We can offer continuing education classes in this area.
So speaking of continuing education, Joe, I understand you're actually introducing an executive education training program at Asia School of Business to do exactly this sometime in 2023. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we can look forward to?
Oh, thank you very much, Crystal. This is what I was waiting for. Investment management these days require transfer. We have to offer programs that cover not just the traditional equities, fixed income, derivatives, risk management, but we have to cover things like sustainability, sustainably responsible investing, digital transformation, and so on, so that portfolio managers and analysts in the field can get up the game and keep up to speed with the latest research, thinking, analytics, and requirements in the field. So we are planning to offer this program for portfolio managers and analysts in the financial industry, not just for Malaysia, for all of Asia and broader, maybe even the Middle East. Gather them here in Kuala Lumpur, which is a hub of fund management activity, and teach them or learn together about what's latest and the best in our field.
That's amazing. Sounds like there's a lot to look forward to, and we can't wait to hear more about your course next year. Thank you again so much for speaking with us, Joe. It's been really great. I've learned so much about, what it means to retire well and to retire in a prudent manner. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your thoughts and your knowledge with us.
Thank you, Crystal.